right, we're here. It's Tuesday. It is Tuesday the 9th of July. We just got done with a very long holiday.
Yes.
And there's a lot of crazy announcements that Wendell's very excited to tell you about.
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of... it was a very long holiday because everyone had to work over the holiday. At least anybody that does anything as far as like hardware or graphics cards or anything like that. Probably a lot of people in AMD. Probably a lot of people in Intel working like freaking out.
Tearing sackcloth and ashes, tearing their hair and clothes.
Well, we certainly had a lot of fun doing the Intel skit, which is a lot of fun. But we actually had a lot of content. So AMD's released a whole bunch of new processors, and those are the Ryzen 3000 series based on the Zen 2 microarchitecture. And also, they've released their Navi, their codename Navi GPUs, which is GPUs based around RDNA, the Radeon 5700 and the 5700 XT. So the first thing we get to plug is all the Level 1 content. Yeah.
Wendell made this himself.
Yeah.
I wasn't around to help with the graphics, and he was like, "Look what I made! It's
Isn't
beautiful."
It's Frylock, but it's like setting fire to Intel. This is actually a screen grab from our little
that
Intel
actually?
skit.
I just realized what that was in that top corner. Oh wow, that's very creative.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of what it looks
I get what
like
you're
with the
going
eyes
for.
And,
Yeah.
You can kind of see that.
I smell what you're stepping in.
But we've got a full review of the GPUs and the CPUs. And there's actually an article. Like, this article is pretty long. There's a lot here.
You've added more since
Yes.
I first looked at it. So,
But there's also more content. So Epos Vox came down, and he does a lot of stuff with audio and video and multimedia. And we're working on the audio.
hopefully it's better this week. But there's only two of us too, so
yeah, it's hard to mic for three people in a way that doesn't require a lot of tedious editing. Like if you mic for three people, it works really well with a multicam setup where you have one camera for each person, and then each person's mic is into a camera, and then you can go between that. But when you have three channels of audio, mixing those properly is a challenge.
Especially because me and Ryan have quieter voices, and your voice is louder, and
yeah, well,
and the air conditioner's on, and
theoretically you figure all that out on the mixer, but we're terrible at that. So, but anyway, there's some really good content here around multimedia and encoding, and a lot of unique content. Like the Radeon 5700 RX 5700 is actually faster than a 2080 Ti. Yes, for encoding type workloads, that's actually true. The HEVC codec is beast mode, and actually H.264 is good too. But AMD has a lot of like user interface bugs, or I'm not sure if it's AMD or like Open Broadcaster, but like the UI is objectively bad, and it's been like that for a while. And it's like, okay, like I don't care whose fault it is, we just need to fix it.
That sounds like something I've said in meetings before when critiquing other designers' UI. I don't care whose fault it is. Let's just get it done so it's done well.
And also, the B450, it's like, can you run a 12-core processor on the Tomahawk B450? Turns out you can, and that actually works really well. So that's exciting because, you know, if you already have an AMD motherboard, you can just get a faster processor, and that's literally it.
What was the analogy you used to describe that?
It's like the Tomahawk B450. I mean, let's face facts here. It's got a cut down network. It's got cut down audio. It's basically like a frame with four wheels, a gas pedal, a brake, and like one seat, and like that's what you get.
Not even a steering wheel.
But you can drop a 12-core processor in that sucker, and it works fine. So I mean, it's like, what am I paying for with some of the like higher end boards? But with the higher end boards, I mean, you pay more, you get more. But man, that B450 board, I can't believe the 12-core basically will run continuously on that board. Now it needs a lot of cooling. You got to have like, you know, a lot of airflow in your case, but basically it's fine. So there's budget options. We also reviewed the Gigabyte Aorus Master, which is awesome. It's like 14 real phases directly into the CPU, so you can imagine it's an overclocking beast. And also the Taichi X570 for launch. I think we were one of the few people that could get 4.5 gigahertz all-core on the 3900X at a not entirely unreasonable 1.45 to 1.47 volts. It was not perfectly stable. It depends on what you're doing. But for even the content creation workloads, 4.5 at 1.45 volts is pretty good.
I'll trust your opinion on that.
I don't know.
There's going to be a lot of videos about this in the next probably like what, week, 2 weeks? Who knows? Probably forever.
Yeah, with all the press kits, there's probably like 50 different videos on the processors and GPUs alone. Generally, a lot of people were super impressed with the CPUs. There were last-minute updates to the UEFI, which changed the performance story a little bit. Like some reviewers were like, Intel's still a little bit ahead for one-thread, like single-threaded stuff. But that wasn't really true in our testing. For some artificial benchmarks it was, but not really everything, and not even gaming. And I think that was just down to if you were running older UEFI or newer UEFI, or maybe even differences in the chip. So a little bit of a fumble there. But overall, really impressive engineering. The GPUs were not quite as impressive. The GPUs are like the first step in they look promising. So like when AMD launched their new microarchitecture in 2017, like was in our little skit, the new GPUs are kind of like that. So it's like they're the first iteration, and they're not the fastest thing out there, but they're really promising, and they are actually the fastest for media encoding.
Which is fairly impressive.
Yeah, but you can get, RTX 2070 level performance for, $350, $400, which is pretty good. If you can
I'm all about budget options, so.
Yeah, you can get a little bit more performance for the same money, or a little bit less performance for less money. So it's pretty awesome. And then NVIDIA's got Super that they're trying to respond with, but they missed a little bit on that. So it's, I don't know, it's sort of
the
fun.
competition's good for us.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And Intel also had this memo. So Hot Hardware has Intel internal memo details fiercest challenges versus AMD in over a decade. So Intel's done a pretty good job scrubbing this memo from the internet. You can still find copies of it out there, but this article is about the contents of that. And it was like, AMD is a formidable, whatever. And and it came out before the process was actually launched. In the memo, it was like, Intel expects that AMD is still going to have really good multi-core performance because AMD's just been throwing cores at it like crazy, and they've been doing it, and it's good. But they were like, Intel's probably still going to win in single thread and lightly threaded stuff. It's like, oh, or not. Awkward. So that's sort of fun.
They're coming for you.
Yeah. So this hot hardware article's got some cool stuff. There's Lisa Sue, and I
love the
top of
memes
the
with Lisa Sue. Bless her
yeah.
heart, because I'm sure she doesn't really care about it, but oh my gosh, they're so funny.
Oh, I should have cut in the GIF. Okay.
The one that, what's his face made?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the artist right now. We've retweeted his stuff before. He did some work for us.
Oh, I've got to find that. This is probably going to be an awkward cut.
There's going to be an awkward cut. Grant, our poor editor.
And it's old, too, so I don't know if I even...
It would be... There's a link to that guy on... we're going to scroll through Wendell's Twitter feed.
Oh, where is it at?
You tweet more than the Level 1 account.
By a lot.
I usually retweet your stuff sometimes. And then, if we run a contest or anything, or if there's something cool on the forum. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Brian. I knew his name was Brian, but I couldn't remember his last name.
Yes, Brian. Thank you, Brian.
Switch over so they can see it.
I have to switch over at exactly the right moment, you see.
Oh.
So.
It'll repeat.
There we go.
There it is.
So thanks, Brian.
Not only is it a really good piece of pixel art, but it's also animated and it's fantastic.
This is literally exactly how it has been with the Ryzen launch. It's amazing. It's just super amazing.
You guys check out the rest of his work. He's done some cool stuff,
yeah.
Including some stuff of us, including one where Ryan's passed out drunk as a pixel man.
It's neat. So, not to be outdone, but India launched a processor too.
That's great.
India's first CPUs are ready for app development. This is, of course, based on RISC-V. So look at that. They got the plucky little RISC-V CPU. What was it called? It was like Shakti. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Probably not.
Probably not.
That looks like how it's pronounced, but...
They've got different classes. There's like a low power class and like 0.2 to 1 gigahertz, and then up to 2.5 gigahertz, up to 8 cores. And this one with like L4 cache and experimental designs. So this is done by like their technical company, or like their technical institute, or whatever you want to call it. So it looks promising. It's RISC-V. I always like looking at RISC-V news because that's like the open source microprocessor, and the more people that do stuff with RISC-V, the more rich that ecosystem becomes, the more likely it is more people will do stuff with RISC-V. It's pretty brilliant, really. So,
I trust your opinions on some of the hardware stuff.
Our next story is
I feel bad because I can't offer as much insight.
Our next story is kind of design related.
A little bit.
Because Johnny Ive has left Apple, but that's not the news. The news is that Apple...
to include a new scissor switch keyboard in 2019 MacBook Air and 2020 MacBook Pro.
So this means the butterfly keyboard is gone, which was probably a point of contention with Johnny Ive, although maybe not.
Most of the stuff I know, I didn't actually know he was involved with too much of the hardware design. I remember a few years ago he did a lot of the graphic design and like the UI design, and started adding all the gradients and stuff. And like the design blogs I followed loved making fun of that. And now everyone uses it everywhere. Like that style is ubiquitous. So
it just seems like it's so not. What's the word? Like somebody put a lot of work into it. It seems like somebody just,
meticulous.
Yeah, meticulous. It's not very meticulous. It's very haphazard.
Yeah. Well, the gradient thing, everyone was like, it's so unsubtle, and like he used super thin fonts too, which now of course is also in style.
So everybody is welcoming the idea of a new keyboard because that butterfly keyboard was terrible. Just unmitigated terrible.
The chiclet keyboards.
So bad.
It feels so sad to type on.
Also in business news, this entire episode is business news pretty much. Broadcom is said to be in talks to buy Symantec, the security software maker. Yes, Broadcom is going to buy Symantec. Like, is Symantec even really relevant anymore? But this kind of makes sense because Broadcom does networks and interconnects, and it's easy to think that maybe Broadcom wants to make their silicon a little smarter and sell security appliances that have acceleration. Because like if you build a security appliance and you need to run through millions of rules looking for malware, doing that in software is slow.
So that's why they bought it?
Well, I mean, potentially Broadcom could make something unique by doing it more in hardware. Maybe with an FPGA, but maybe with something more exciting. I don't know, because otherwise I can't imagine why Broadcom would buy a software company like Symantec to do stuff. It just doesn't make sense. Unless it's to do hardware accelerated security scanning. I don't know.
Or someone knew someone. And
it's like, oh, you can make a lot of money with this.
Yeah, some sort of weird backdoor deal.
You can get Symantec.
That's what I expect anymore.
Pennies on the dollar. I don't know. Frontier. Ars Technica has this really amazing article about Frontier, the ISP. Frontier customer bought his own router, but he has to pay the $10 rail fee anyway.
This is so stupid because he doesn't even have it anymore. Like, it's not a thing, but he's still paying for it every month.
Verizon, so the situation was Verizon had provided service in his area, and he got a modem from Verizon. Frontier took over the area, and Frontier was like, here, have another modem. And he's like, I already have one, thanks. But they charge him anyway.
They're like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah, and so he filed a complaint with the FCC because it's like, they're charging me for a modem that I don't even have.
Well, they refunded him a couple times, right? And then they just started putting it back on his bill. They're like, no, you're paying for it.
Yeah. So it's like, even if you're not, they were like, even if you're not using the modem, you still have to pay for it. So you should just take one for free. And it's not really free if you're paying $10 a month.
No, it's expensive.
So this really is reminiscent, and everybody in the FCC and everybody that's involved has said, no, this is perfectly legit and fine. But isn't this reminiscent of like AT&T in the 1980s? Before the whole monopoly breakup, where they said you must use only an AT&T phone to plug into your wall, and it's like that seems monopolistic. That seems anti-competitive.
But this time, someone's paying the FCC money to look the other way.
It's also a little different in that Frontier doesn't actually manufacture the modems that they're using. They're using third-party modems, and it's like, no, you must use only our modems. Okay, cool, but
I think that's the loophole they used.
But you can,
like, we don't actually make them. We just want people to use our thing.
Why wouldn't you just buy it from a third party, as did the guy? Well, he didn't really buy it from a third party. He got it from his previous ISP. But that's still a mess.
It's dumb either way.
Speaking of other regulation, tangentially related business-ish news, U.S. Retail Group is offering to help antitrust investigators in going after Amazon or Google. And you think about this, and it's like, this kind of, I don't know that this is necessarily yet an antitrust situation, but if you've got Amazon and Google, they can do a lot of price comparison shopping. Traditional retailers do not like that.
Yeah.
Think about how expensive retail space is. I mean, a tiny, tiny, tiny shop here in our
very small Appalachian city, quote unquote,
is like $1 million. So you have to charge quite a markup to recover that much of a cost for store space.
I mean, even like I know what place you're talking about that's charging that much, but like even further east in the hometown I grew up in, a lot of places are just going out because it's like we can't bother affording the rent, so they'll just sell their stuff like on Facebook because that's easier than having a storefront.
somebody shows up in a rusted out Corolla and is like, "I got your stuff." And
It's
like,
usually like
"Thanks."
homemade soaps and stuff. Like that's the business I'm thinking of in particular, was a homemade soap shop.
Now there are some places around here that have like the arts and crafts stuff, and they do really well. They sell stuff worldwide.
Yeah. It seems like anything sort of boutique-y, like home decor or...
Turns out if rich
that
people
kind of
can
thing.
bottle the suffering of poor people and have it on display in their homes, they'll pay a lot for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Pay a premium for it, in fact.
Xiaomi,
If you've never heard of this, because we didn't.
They have threatened riders over Mimoji's app overlap with Apple's Memoji. It's Mimoji versus Memoji. There's a lot to unpack here. I never thought I would be doing a story about this.
This, I don't know, like, I kind of looked at this and I was like, well, it's not that similar. I mean, the idea isn't that similar, but I do think the animation style is a little bit, or like the art style, I guess, is pretty similar.
Apple, with the iPhone 10, popularized having these sort of animated emoji-like things.
That was like the big thing they advertised in all their
whatever your
advertising
facial
campaign.
expression is, it will be mirrored by this software. But it was actually a Chinese company that did that first.
What are the chances of them winning against Apple, though?
I think if Apple is going to sue over Johnny Ive's rounded corners, that if Apple had been first to do this, they would have just sued everybody into oblivion. And that's what Xiaomi has a problem with. A lot of writers say Apple did it first, but that's not actually true.
These do look suspiciously close.
I mean, they do kind of...
I can't decide which ones I like better.
Is this one supposed to be Johnny Ive? Because it kind of looks like Johnny Ive.
I think his hair's purple, though.
Yeah.
His hair's dark and shaved close.
Yeah. Do you use Spotify at all?
I don't. No, actually, a few news episodes ago, we had asked people like what their opinions of Spotify, and it was like, "Oh, you should get it," but maybe not now.
Maybe not now.
Spotify shuts down direct music uploading for independent artists.
So they used to let independent artists upload your music. Like if you're an artist and you make music, upload your music, and Spotify lists it, and then fans
Easy
can
distribution,
find it.
yeah.
And now Spotify's like, nope, not going to do
Need
that.
to have some sort of label because I don't know. I'm assuming they just don't want to deal with like maybe people multiple uploading and
It seems like
legal issues, and
it seems like legal issues would be the main reason, but that's really like the alt press website really doesn't talk about legal issues as like the main
reason.
issue. So a lot of artists, a lot of independent artists were super upset, but it seemed like a lot of the context that the website provided for this article, artists were not this was not unexpected, let's say. They're like,
okay.
based on our experience with Spotify, this makes perfect sense. So maybe if you use Spotify, consider not.
I can't say. I mean, it's probably better for the artists because I imagine they get paid at least some, but like I usually just listen to music on YouTube, which is not great.
Well, I think
because then they get nothing.
I think that whatever the label or third party is that they might have to go through is going to want to cut. And that's probably going to be even less money for the artists. So
bad news.
Yeah, Tesla's got a little bit of a talent problem.
That's not the least of Tesla's problems right now, but the talent problem does exist.
Electrex, this is the website Electrek. Tesla's head of production is going to an EV startup called Lucid Motors. And it turns out at Lucid Motors, there's a lot of ex-Tesla employees, if this article is to be believed. And also, if this article is to be believed, Lucid Motors has $1 billion of Saudi money. Musk has got some problems.
I read that and I was like, oh. Wasn't it like $1 billion of Saudi money? Like they had invested a lot.
Yeah, so this may not be a good thing.
Well, it'll be good for us, for the competition. It probably won't be great for Tesla since they won't be like cornering the market as much anymore, but...
were they ever? I don't
kind of. I mean, usually like when... Well, I don't know. If you ask any of my family about an electric car, they'd be like, what are you talking about? But... I think most people, when they think electric car, they probably think Tesla.
How crazy would it be if we enter a world where Tesla supplies just parts for other electric car makers? Because I could maybe be convinced that they're ahead of the curve with their battery technology, but I'm not really sure about some of the other aspects of it. And it's like, is Elon Musk the problem, or are there other systemic problems? I don't know.
There probably are other issues. I mean, it's a new technology, or newish technology, but like, I don't think Musk helps. Like I think that makes things maybe a little bit worse because it feels unstable because he's always like so chaotic, at least socially. Though that might keep their name in the press. I don't know. Maybe that's good.
Here's a decidedly 21st century headline.
Ebooks purchased from Microsoft will be deleted this month because you don't really own anything anymore.
How cool would it be if you bought a book and then it's like, oh, it just evaporated?
I would be very upset. Well, I have a small dog. Well, she's not small, but she's done that a couple times where she's decided to shred a book when she was a puppy.
Doesn't really become evaporate.
It just becomes, just shredded all over the house. But that's only happened twice. But, so your books might just disappear. And I think you get, if you had annotated your books or anything like that, I think you get a generous $25 from Microsoft for all your trouble. People make fun of me for keeping DVDs, but
why is this technology so terrible? Like, why?
They're shutting down the servers.
No,
all this stuff's stored on. So, I guess you're just screwed.
I'm pretty sure that you could provide, export that file into a format that you could just read forever. That's a thing. You could totally do that, but they just won't.
They could just have a download button, and they're like, no, that would be too much work. We'll just give them a $25 gift card.
Speaking of things that are too much work,
MoviePass has shut down for several weeks to update its app. They say that they're going to be back sometime, but they haven't said when. I think that that's not true. I don't think that they are coming back. Wendell is more hopeful.
I think that they're probably not coming back. If they do come back, it's probably going to be about a month. They're going to try to restructure. They're not still billing people, but they say that they have to do this because they're changing the structure of the way that the company works and the way that the app works. And so the easiest thing is to basically just shut everything down and then get the new app in place and then bring everything back up again, which it seems like you would just hemorrhage people that are interested in your service again.
Well, and they don't really have a great history as it is. I think this is probably the rattling death breaths of the company, but maybe I'm wrong.
You know what's really scary is that how much of the internet relies on Cloudflare.
Yeah, we ran into that. I think it was from this time. I think it was last Wednesday that we had everything went down temporarily. Cloudflare stutters and internet stumbles.
I stutter really bad sometimes.
I just stuttered pretty bad there.
This was a bad regular expression. So a bad regular expression brought down a significant percentage of the internet. That's amazing.
The intern responsible for that has been sacked, and the person responsible for sacking him has been sacked.
It's 34.55% of the market with Amazon CloudFront in second with 28.84%. That's a lot.
We use Cloudflare.
We do. We really do.
Oh, this is the picture that you posted earlier.
Yeah, this is
that we spent valuable time, our viewers' time, looking up.
Look, it's good. It's going to be really quick this week because there's not a lot of news.
There's not.
Other than AMD.
Well, because there's holidays, there's Canada's birthday, U.S. birthday.
There's also the NVIDIA super launches because NVIDIA's got those are the higher clocked versions of NVIDIA graphics card. It's really a terrible time if you bought Radeon 7 or an RTX 2060, my heart goes out to you because those cards have
they're already
their
just
value
tanked.
has just tanked. So except possibly for content creation, Radeon 7 is probably still good for content creation, but gaming workloads.
That's how I felt when I did a whole new template for Level 1 in Drupal 7, and then Drupal 8 was released. And now Drupal 8 is going away soon too. I'm like.
There's a very vocal minority in the audience that's like, no, you should just implement it in X. And
oh yeah, well you get that everywhere. You go on Stack Overflow and you look up a question. It's like, I need help with this thing. They're like, why are you using that? You should just use this. And it's like I don't get to choose what I'm working in sometimes.
We'll just write our own CMS using Go. It'll be fine. All right. Tomorrow we've got government, mostly government, and a little bit of
was
something
it security?
else. I think it was security, government and security. And then Friday we've got robot, social, and nonsense.
Which those are always the best episodes. So. And
also probably about 7 more videos on all things AMD this week.
Which some of you will love, and some of you will probably be like, oh, I can't wait till they're done with that. Either way, please watch.
Yeah, check out the Megathread because there's already 6 things there. The biggest thing is Linux. Newer versions of the Linux kernel don't boot on the processors, and they'll probably be fixed in pretty short order. But you can use Ubuntu 18.04 LTS, but I don't know. It's rough. It's kind of rough. So we'll see. There's coverage on the Linux channel, so check that out. All right, we'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Oh, it's time for another day of news.
It is. It's Tuesday the 10th, or Wednesday the 10th, not Tuesday the 10th.
It's July 10th, 2019.
Yes.
And of course, the first thing that we have to talk about today is Elizabeth Warren.
What was that face? Elizabeth Warren accuses advisory panel for FCC of corruption. Okay. Like,
welcome to, like, but it's terrible, though, because it's like...
Look at her poster down here.
Ajit Pai must explain the extent to which the CSRIC may be influenced by corporations.
Break up big tech. I think we'll see this a lot from a lot of different candidates.
Like
a lot of them will be focusing on the tech issues this year.
This feels
whenever, next year.
A lot more like just something to get attention and not actually genuine concern.
Like when she promised to get rid of all the student loan debt, just forgive it all. I just paid mine off.
Oops.
Oh, no, but it hurts so bad, but it was also like, you know that scene at the end of Lord of the Rings where like Frodo drops the ring into the fire and he goes, he's like, it's over. It's done. That's how it felt when I paid it off. Yeah. It'll be paid off officially like in a few weeks, but
now you'll have to start investing in things and watch your retirement nest egg grow, and it'll be like the opposite of that, where it's like you literally turn into Gollum.
Yeah, well, we're going to be trying to save for a house here shortly, but
my precious. I don't know.
But I'll have no debt going into the marriage, which is what I wanted. So
speaking of things that are not precious at all, it's sort of crazy. Things are getting crazy in the UK because they're doing the face recognition thing, and 81% of suspects flagged by the Met's police facial recognition technology are innocent. An independent report says. This is Sky News. But like half the response from the police force is like, this is overly negative and it's overblown, and it's actually only like 1% are false positives. But then you try to look at how the police department is determining that, and then it's like, ooh.
And how many resources are spent chasing possible false positives? Like,
yeah, there's a lot of truthiness in this particular article, but it also talks about how in this particular borough, how did the people of the borough give consent to be able to do this? And there's not a really good explanation for that.
Answer,
like,
they didn't.
Yeah, it's like people would want this, and then finally the police force is like, well, I think people would want us to use new technology to pursue criminals. But the problem is that this is just going to be around in a database forever.
And you might not be a criminal, but
like, what if you have an unpopular
you still have
opinion?
A face and you're still out there.
At some point, this database will be used to search for people that just have an unpopular opinion.
Which relates to another story in this section we'll get to later. Are you trying to remember which one it is?
No.
Samsung in hot water over splashy Australian phone ads. I didn't even segue into that.
Yeah, so what happened here was Samsung was advertising that their phones were waterproof. And so people used their phones in salt water, which ended badly. So you can kind of see, it's like, oh, you run it under the sink and then everything is good.
It's fine.
But if you actually go to the beach or something, not so much. 'Cause
I assume the salt crusts up when it dries and then causes issues.
Also conducts electricity.
Ooh,
so,
didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a problem. Sorry, Samsung. They're probably going to have to pay a fine or fix some phones or something. This is in Australia.
I guess if you're advertising it, yeah, because that would be a feature. Like, you'd have to clarify, like, don't put it in salt water. I would think that you wouldn't want to get your phone wet. Like, I went to the pool recently and, like, put my phone in a baggie, but
yeah, maybe just
I'm a little paranoid.
The phone is, like, splash proof.
Yeah, that would probably be a better way.
A little bit rain proof, but
don't submerge it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Don't throw it don't yeet it into the ocean.
I didn't yeet it into the ocean, but I did dab it into the ocean.
I used the word yeet with a 3-year-old today at church. He picked up a ball from like the 2-year-old room that one of the kids had thrown over the gate. And he was like, what do I do with it? And I was like, just yeet it back over there. And I was like, I probably shouldn't say that slang. It probably means something else. I don't know.
Speaking of things that shouldn't something, the hacker who launched a DDoS attack on Sony, EA, and Steam gets 27 months in prison. If you're having trouble remembering that was from like 10 years ago.
I was going to say, I was like, did we ever cover this? Like, they just went with the generic troll face for the picture.
That's the guy's handle. It was like.
Well, everyone uses the troll face, or
derp
did.
Trolling was the guy's handle. So
it's very internet 10 years ago.
Yeah, he's going 27 months in prison, and it's been in the court system forever. It seems a little excessive, but not as excessive as I've seen. I mean, sometimes some of these prison sentences are like 10 years, and it's like, you what?
Speaking of really long sentences.
An engineer is facing 219 years in prison for smuggling U.S. military chips to China. These particular microchips have to do with like high energy microwave stuff, And he, I guess, involved somebody else in his conspiracy. And that person was like, no, this is everything that happened. So the authorities are being relatively lenient on the other person, but this guy gets the full blame. And he's facing up to 219 years in prison. Sort of scary.
Ooh.
It's like, we just need to get this to China. They were hoping,
Federal prison.
Yeah, they were hoping that these high-energy microwave chips would have applications in the commercial and industrial, like military sector in China, but this is literally just espionage. So, yeah. Amazon can be liable for third-party seller products, according to a U.S. appeals court, which is exciting because I've ordered a lot of stuff from Amazon, and we've like HDMI cables and DisplayPort cables. A lot of counterfeit cables on Amazon.
A lot of garbage from third-party sellers. You have to really check out the reviews before you order.
Yeah, so I think that this is probably going to change everything. And I think this is probably going to really negatively impact mom-and-pop sellers on Amazon as well. Amazon is probably going to make a lot of really onerous things that people have to comply with that only if you're really willing to scam people would you be able to comply with everything that Amazon will insist on.
You think this will like cause a small uptick in like eBay sales?
Like everybody will go back to eBay?
Yeah. Like all the mom and pop stores?
It's possible. I mean, Amazon already makes it like to sell products on Amazon. It's already like they want you to ship stuff and deal with customer stuff so quickly that it's just like super annoying.
I have a client who does some stuff on Amazon and like
it's always just terrible.
Yeah, every time she's like, "How does this work?" And I'm like,
"You might warn them; it's about to get a lot worse."
Yeah.
So I'm sure that Amazon will overreact to this and use it as an excuse to push through something that is wildly unpopular.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity.
Just like the opportunity they have with the Second Age stories for Lord of the Rings, but they may flounder it.
That's not a segue into our next story.
It's not. It's just me ranting.
ZDNet says that D-Link, the router maker, they're going to undergo security audits for 10 years as part of an FTC settlement. So,
which is kind of like shouldn't they be doing that anyway? But
they made routers and other home gear that would show up on your home network, but they were so insecure that it turned into a big mess for a lot of people. So the FTC has said, all right, your consumer products are going to have to be independently audited by security auditors for the next 10 years, which I'm not sure if that's reasonable or not. I wonder, so like we have the FCC and we have the like CE Consumer Electronics and we have a lot of other certifying agencies. So like when you buy an electrical appliance and plug it in, it doesn't like burn your house down. So I wonder if we're going to have that for the Internet of Things devices. Like it meets certain basic security needs. Because like those Samsung smart fridges, that is just a disaster from a security standpoint.
Well, the thing with like electrical is that that doesn't make huge leaps and bounds, I wouldn't think, like rapidly, whereas like security stuff, you do one thing and it's outdated like 3 days later, so
it turns out
how could you possibly regulate that effectively?
It turns out if you have an original Edison electric light bulb and you screw it into a modern socket, it'll work just fine.
I mean, there might be a higher chance of issues with it, but like it'll work. But like the security side, it's like I don't know, like how quickly can you get stuff patched?
Whereas if I plug in that RJ45 token ring adapter to my gigabit Ethernet switch, probably going to destroy the switch.
It's also the knob and tube wiring in this. We don't have any knob and tube left.
Not anymore. It's all
there
gone.
Was a lot of that for a long time.
Miles and miles of it, as it turns out. That's all gone. That's why you see some of the brick behind and beside me.
I mean, partly because it looks cool, and we decided that was an aesthetic choice, but also
neat. Lots
of bad wiring.
But yeah, D-Link's going to get audited. Speaking of audits and blacklists and lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my. U.S. government staff told to treat Huawei as blacklisted.
So Huawei's not re-blacklisted. Like you and me
I was confused by that.
Laptops, but government officials, nope.
I mean, I think that's fair. I was confused when I first read the headline. I was like, wait, they were blacklisted, now they aren't, and like we're just treating them like they are, but we're not like officially giving them that title. But no, it's just if you work for the government.
So you can do business with Huawei, but you're supposed to be on guard. It's like, did they did they pack your luggage for you? Did they give you any meals or anything? Like,
they poison your drink, like.
But and so it's like we always talk about like the smoking gun. It's like, where's the link? How is Huawei actually an intelligence organization? Well, the Telegraph has this article.
Huawei staff CVs reveal alleged links to Chinese intelligence agencies.
This is a lot of fun because if you go through like there's apparently a Chinese website like LinkedIn.
I was gonna say, what a bizarre trail to go down. It's like, let me look at all these people's CVs.
It's like you look at the resume and it's like, oh, currently employed by the Chinese military in the Signals Intelligence Division, and also very high level engineer for Huawei.
Wait.
And it's like, wait a minute. And it's not even like used to work in the intelligence organization and now works for Huawei, because we get that revolving door in our industry as well. I mean, I'm sure that if you look through the people that currently work for Cisco that have their resumes on LinkedIn, I'm sure that you'll find a lot that have a military background, or that were in the Army or the Navy or the Marines or something like that. But theoretically, they're not still working for the intelligence organization or the Army or the Navy or the Marines at the time that they're working for Cisco or another company. So I take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but overall, this is the first real piece of evidence that I've seen that this type of thing merits more consideration.
That's so funny that someone found that, though. Like, I'm imagining they have an intelligence agency, and like, just some jerk like me is just sitting at their desk, like, creeping on people, and it's like, oh, that's interesting, and they just send that up to a higher up. And
what's really interesting about this is that it wasn't just one person. There's actually quite a few people that are, and it seems to be like a cultural thing too. It's like, I'm very proud of working for the intelligence apparatus and Huawei. And it's like,
I mean,
I guess
2 large operations, I imagine that's probably prestigious.
Speaking of the intelligence apparatus, China is forcing tourists to install tech-stealing malware at its border. So
this is a big story. I saw this all over the place last
somebody
week.
went to a particular province, China, I guess, and it was like, hey, that's weird. They put some crap on my phone. So they gave it to a researcher who then traveled there and also got the same malware put on their phone. And then it's been uploaded to GitHub, and it's also been added to a blacklist that some security software uses. So depending on what security software you use on Android, if you use security software at all, it'll scan for this. But this particular malware looked for about 70,000 different blacklisted files on your device, and would also upload your calendar and your text messages and that kind of thing to a central database. So
spooky.
Yeah, if you ever travel internationally, travel with a different cell phone. That's what I do.
Though initially not because of that, right? Wasn't it more just like, my plan doesn't work over here?
Yeah, well, that too.
But also now because of this.
Florida man has been fired. No, the CDNet really missed an opportunity to
They
start
really
this.
did.
It's like, so Florida City has fired an IT employee after paying a ransom demand last week. So this article talks about problems in several cities in Florida where they've had their entire city IT network encrypted, and they're paying upwards of $600,000. That's 65 Bitcoin.
It seems to be happening a ton, like
Yeah.
in cities all over the U.S.
And the cities, like, they don't have backups, or the backups also get encrypted, and so it just ends up being a huge mess. So the IT guy has been fired because obviously it's entirely the IT guy's fault.
I sense a little bit of repressed bitterness.
It's like, I want to help you, and it's like, okay, yes, let's do this together. And it's like, I'm not willing to make any changes in how things work.
Well, do you think it was just like one guy too for like a whole city?
Oh, that would be funny, because it's like one.
They're like, don't worry, we got rid of the problem. We got rid of the only guy who knew anything about how all this stuff was set up. It'll be perfect now.
Oh, what a terrible mess.
You never fire the IT Gandalf.
Yeah. If you haven't heard of deepfakes, well, you should, because you should watch this program. Deepfake revenge porn distribution is now a crime in Virginia. So if you use deepfakes to create porn of somebody and distribute it, that is a criminal offense now. You can still create it, you just can't distribute it.
So I did a little bit of Googling about this, not with the deepfake part, but I was like, I wonder if revenge porn and stuff like that, is that illegal in Kentucky? It is, and it's been illegal for about a year. And then I was like, let's see if it's illegal in Alabama. Let's see if they keep taking the heat off us. It's been illegal for 2 years in Alabama, so they actually beat us there.
They
made us look bad.
No.
But I don't think we have any rules about deepfake. I think maybe Virginia is one of the first states to do that.
It's not real. So.
Wow.
But it's only
either way, crappy thing to do to someone.
It's only the distribution. You can still make it. You just can't distribute it.
Still weird, but
still very weird. Reuters has this exclusive, which is
Google appears to have leveraged Android dominance, India antitrust watchdog.
So there's a watchdog in India that is saying that Google has abused its Android mobile operating system to prevent mobile operators in India from customizing Android in certain ways, or bundling applications, or doing that kind of thing. I don't know. There's not enough information here to really tell if Google was trying to prevent them from putting crapware. So, like here in America, like Verizon, for example, we'll pick on Verizon
because why not?
They're awful. They'll put on like the NFL Sunday Ticket and like Facebook and about 20 other completely garbage applications on their phones, and presumably they're getting paid for that. And if you go to try to uninstall them, they don't uninstall. And if you go to try to remove them or shut them down, they don't really, like, they're still there. And so this is tolerated by Google on Android. But if you go beyond that, then and Google starts to say, no, you're ruining the Android experience, we're not going to do that. And so it's not clear if in India they were trying to bundle applications that would ruin the Android experience, or if it was like the Facebook NFL Sunday Ticket nonsense.
Ugh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Stupid app.
Yeah, it's really just... Ugh. King's College in London breached GDPR by sharing a list of activist students with cops.
This is the segue I was thinking of earlier.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, some students and one faculty member ended up on a list where it was like, the Queen is going to open up this thing and we need it to be secure. And so the college shared student and professor info with the police, who then said, well, we want to make sure these people don't have access to this. They weren't suspected of a crime or anything like that. They never really clarified. But it's against GDPR to share student and faculty info. And so the college has said, oh yeah, whoops.
Oops, too late now.
It's a really interesting situation. There's actually a lot more details going on there and a lot of subtlety. And it's like, I don't understand some aspects of it because of like, oh, the Queen's involved and like the Queen's going to do this. And it's like, well, these people weren't suspected of wrongdoing. Are they on a list, or did you get some intelligence? Like what's going on?
They're activists, which could mean that, they went out in the quad and waved some signs around, or, maybe they
read a book.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Scary. Speaking of scary, things are happening in France.
France moves to make companies block hate speech online.
Wow.
Good luck.
Yeah, good. Like what? I mean, the only thing that must not be tolerated is intolerance. But
I feel like it's like I sometimes read like those kind of articles. And I'm like, have these people not been on the internet from like the Wild Wild West days when like you can't get rid of stuff on the internet? Like because
people are terrible.
Yeah, like there's always going to be something terrible on the internet, and the goalposts will always move. But
speaking of terrible things on the internet,
Wendell, this is good news for you.
30,000 followers makes you an internet celebrity, says a UK ad
Wendell,
regulator.
you have like 60,000 followers on Twitter. You're a celebrity twice over, according to this.
I have to disclose things. I've never actually been paid to tweet anything, so.
Your Twitter's all your own. I think the Level 1 one has 50,000 followers, so that would also be.
Nice. I tweet a lot. People
You
don't
do
like
tweet
to follow me.
You do
you
tweet
follow
a lot.
Level 1, and then it's like that's much more conservative.
Yeah, Level 1's usually like just major announcements, and like if we're running a contest or if we have new stuff in the store, or like sometimes something funny that a fan sent us will get put on there. But
every now and again, my brain just stops working for a while, and it's like, oh, I need to tweet this. Today my toes don't seem as long as usual.
I licked doorknobs as a child. But he has 60,000 followers. This is actually a tax designation, correct?
Yes.
So like if you have a certain number of followers, you can get taxed differently.
That's crazy.
That'll probably come here eventually. And then you'll be taxed differently. You'll have another layer of weirdness in your taxes because of that.
Pretty sure we'll all be affected by that.
Oh, not me.
What? Level 1?
Yeah, but my personal Twitter account only has like 1,000 followers. So
I was just saying. 7-Eleven, Japanese customers lose $500,000 due to mobile app flaw. Now, this is a whole bunch of 7-Eleven customers. So this has to do, like, with 7-Eleven, you can use, it's almost like Western Union here in the U.S., where you can, like, if I need to send you $20 and you're on the other side of the continent, I can just do that through 7-Eleven. Or, like, PayPal. And it turns out the password reset function on this was not great. And so it would use easily guessable information or information that appeared in different online databases. So it was really easy for criminals to do the forgot password thing and get access to people's accounts en masse and then siphon away lots of money. It took the 7-Eleven a day to shut it down. So about $500,000 in a day is not terrible, I guess, for criminals.
Yeah. Well, I watched a video about like people who, you know, work and live in Japan and stuff, and like these kind of convenience stores, like people use these a lot. Yeah. Like it's not like the US where like you might just go in every now and then to get a snack on your way to work. Like these people use them every day.
Yeah, the hacker only needed to know a 7-pay user's email address, date of birth, and phone number, but if they didn't know the date of birth, it would use January 1 of 2019 as their date of birth.
Oh.
So many New Year's babies. 7-Eleven has promised to compensate the hacked users, though. So
that's nice.
Maybe
nice of them.
Maybe their insurance is going to cover it for $500,000. TechCrunch has got this article.
File storage app for shared caught serving invisible ads and making purchases without consent.
How cool is that? You have a file sharing application that has an invisible ad thing, so they're stealing money from an advertising company. But then also somehow they make it so that you purchase things through like installing an app, like you're going to install a paid app by redirecting what your clicks do. That's actually like, I'm not even mad. That's actually like there's a lot of security to prevent you from doing that, and it took a long time for them to be caught. It's 100 million installs in this application, so that's pretty scary. Really,
I had never heard of this app.
It's popular with 100
apparently
million installs. So,
we
got an ad blocker. So there was a couple other things we were going to show you, but it's fine.
I was like, oh, look, this one will let you out of it. It didn't actually. It was just like, subscribe to our other thing. And I was like, no.
Speaking of things that never get deleted.
Amazon Alexa keeps your data with no expiration date and shares it too. A U.S. senator asked questions and Amazon provided answers you might not want to hear.
Yeah, there's a picture of the letter here. You should check out this article. It's on CNET. It's like, oh, yeah, oh, thanks for writing. You know, here you go. Users can delete some of it. Like, users can say, hey, delete stuff, and then that'll actually be deleted. But if some of the recordings or some of the asks have been flagged, or some of the asks go through third-party skills, like say that you install another skill on your Alexa, the person that made the skill could actually save that recording, and that would be somewhere else, and Amazon wouldn't really know. So some pretty scary answers there, really.
I feel vindicated every day that my mom didn't get an Alexa. And then I'll send her articles like this, and she's like, oh, I'm so glad.
Speaking of Internet of Things gone wrong, security flaws in popular smart home hub let hackers unlock front doors. So if a hacker can get onto your Wi-Fi and sniff your home Wi-Fi long enough, they can unlock the door. So the door will actually use a salted hash for the password, but you can just send the hash to the doorknob, and it will unlock it. So like you don't have to have somebody's password. You can just have the session where somebody's password was encrypted. And it's not like, it doesn't have a temporal component to it. So like once you got that password hash, as long as they don't change their password, you can submit that password hash to the doorknob over and over again, and it will toggle the locking mechanism.
I do like whoever did the stock art for this. They actually went the extra mile and made this a GIF.
Nice.
They're moving on up at TechCrunch. They're seeking that money. They're like, I want to be an editor. I don't want to just be a stock photo bitch.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably the editor who picks that. But
and that's we'd sashayed into security in case you didn't figure that out.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it for this episode of the news. It's a short one because everybody in America was on vacation last week, and there wasn't really a lot of world news. And also, and then the process.
And the only country that matters is America.
Maybe we missed something. Something terrible happened in Australia. What terrible things are they doing to you? It's like, oh, we're gonna turn loose a bucket of scorpions in every school.
We didn't do a story about the gamer girl water.
Oh, the gamer girl.
That should be a nonsense. But we're not. We're just not going to discuss it because it's gross. But anyway,
get some new ideas for the Level 1 store. Or check us out at Level1, Patreon.com/Level1. I guess. Yep. All right. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Bye. Hello. Today is July 12th, I think. Yes. And it's Friday. And we're here with nonsense and a bunch of other garbage for you to enjoy on your Friday.
And social. A lot of social.
Social. There was another category in this section, right? Robots and AI?
Look, I didn't even take the keyboard off the table.
Yeah, we're a mess this week. Usually Ryan handles the keyboard stuff, so.
We're so tired. So exhausted.
So tired all the time. Anyway, first story.
YouTube is banning stuff.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, YouTube's well, go ahead.
YouTube mystery ban on hacking videos has content creators puzzled.
So,
what's more puzzling is like, why did they pick a picture of a penguin?
did anybody notify YouTube that Google literally sponsors capture the flag type events? This just reeks of some executive that just doesn't understand information security having some kind of a reactionary response to it. It's like,
It does
no,
feel
we just
very
need to get rid of
reactionary.
everything.
Like, oh, we can't have people hacking. Hacking's bad. Like,
Yeah.
quick, remove it.
Yeah. But Google literally hosts a capture the flag type event where two teams compete to hack a thing to...
Google's gotten so big that like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
I think that this is a really scary situation that we're in where like selling bathwater, like gamer bathwater, is okay. Like that's a perfectly reasonable activity, and it's like I would like to learn more about how my router might be compromised is a less desirable activity. Like that's a very...
Listen, no one's paying for that.
Well, I mean, do you think the end game for YouTube is to eventually become like Spotify, where the only people allowed on the platform have been very carefully whitelisted by some external entity?
I bet that maybe like, I don't know, they might get a lot of backlash for that, but I could see that happening eventually. Just because it's like, that would make it easier for them to monetize, and they wouldn't have such high hosting costs because they would only have like, approved creators instead of like everybody and their mom uploading videos.
It's really not any worse than it already has been. Like I think that they should just abandon the platform wholesale, come up with a new name for something, and then let the really good content creators move over to the new thing with all the Byzantine rules, and just call that something else, like
TubeU.
Yeah, I don't know, something else, and then just let all of the unwashed masses remain on the YouTube side of things, but slowly poison the well by making the infrastructure terrible.
Do you think we would be invited over to the new empire?
No, we're going to float plane. Probably. We won't be invited. We're terrible. We're lucky that it's like we'll monetize 1 out of every 4 of your videos. Even though it's just tech news. That's all it is.
They hear words that are possibly bad or phrases that could be bad, so they just have to be safe.
It's like, oh no, the VentureBeat website's not allowed. Facebook is downgrading posts that promote miracle cures. Well, I guess that's not any worse than YouTube downgrading posts that promote capture the flag activities.
I mean, this one, it is one of those things though, like, how do they tell? And like, but I guess if it's filled with emojis, can you believe how much weight I've lost? Emoji.
It's just these berries, man. These
Order
berries.
more now. Clap.
I wonder.
Sorry.
I wonder if it would treat like the thing where you get your stomach stapled, and like this is miracle cure. Help me lose a bunch of weight, and it's like no, you're the gastric bypass surgery. That's a miracle cure.
Yeah, no. Because like you're never on Facebook, but like I am. And I know lots of people who get sucked into those like multi-level marketing schemes, and it's always like usually it's a stay-at-home mom who doesn't have a whole lot going on, but she's trying to earn a little extra money for her family, and then she's like, here's this weight loss supplement, or here's these leggings that are like massively overpriced, and like everyone is selling them all at once, and like they'll cure everything, and your kid won't have allergies anymore, and like you'll get to go shopping 3 times a week because of all the money you're earning. And
what's a non-concern for Facebook? Security. Facebook has abused its ad system to spread remote access Trojans since 2014.
Wendell, you said you had a lot of experience with this. I don't think I've known anyone who's gotten any issue from Facebook.
A lot of family will like click the ad or see a Facebook ad, or it's just flash ads, and they're definitely getting viruses from...
You didn't install ad block on their machines for them?
Yeah, it's estimated that tens of thousands of users have become victims of the campaign. You can install ad block, but they're like, I need my ads.
Really? My family was blown away when I like turned on ad block, and they're like, wait, I can watch YouTube and I don't have to watch an ad. And I was like, no. I can look, all the stuff's going off the sidebar on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, this is what the internet should be. No, turn it off for our videos, please. But
well,
we understand if you don't, though. It is kind of annoying.
Yeah, all the images on Facebook got turned off involuntarily with the Cloudflare outage, and we talked about that last video. But that also revealed some really other interesting stuff. Facebook's image outage reveals how the company's AI tags your photos.
I think this is actually kind of cool. So if you have like a picture, say I went on a hiking trip recently and someone had posted a bunch of pictures of like trees and flowers, it says photo may contain trees, flowers,
Your
creek.
photo may contain Russell Brandon. So apparently Facebook knows what that guy looks like, which is going to feed the,
yeah, they absolutely do.
The surveillance recognition engine.
I mean, that part's not cool, but like the fact that you have alt tags that are customized and like, it's better for accessibility, that's cool. But the fact that they're probably tracking everything about you may be less cool.
TikTok. It's an app.
That we're too old to use.
Probably.
I don't use TikTok.
It's under investigation over child data use. We've literally gotten to the point where like YouTube videos used to be kind of long, and then they were like 10 minutes, and now they're like 5 minutes. And TikTok is literally like 30 seconds.
This is basically Vine 2.0, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Because like it used to be funny Vines that would get posted to YouTube, and now it's funny TikToks that are posted to YouTube. And, TikTok under investigation over child data use.
So children use TikTok, and they're
surprising no one? Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a UK inquiry looking at whether the video sharing app breaches data protection law. Hint, it does. Because children are not supposed to use it, but they use it anyway.
But I don't know, can you really blame the app for that? Shouldn't your parents be, in theory, like...
Listen,
age verifying that?
Anything any European Union member state can use to find Google.
No, they're going to use it.
Or find somebody, not necessarily Google, just these large companies like, oh, there's some success happening over here. We need to find them.
It's probably going to happen. And then it'll shut down like Vine did because Vine was too expensive to run.
Yeah. Facebook did have a scare this week. The Facebook campus given the all clear after sarin scare. So I guess... It's the thing that happens. It was a false positive. There was a package that tested positive for sarin, but it was not legit.
If you're wondering what sarin is, there's a facility not terribly far from where we are that has sarin gas in it. Read that Wikipedia late at night and kind of feel good about how scary that is. It's a nerve gas.
Yeah.
And it will violently kill you quickly.
Bad. There were also some protests in Hong Kong not long ago. A lot of people involved. But how many people were protesting? Well... it turns out AI helped improve the crowd counting in those Hong Kong protests. So AI was used to analyze the pictures to try to figure out how many people are actually protesting, and that was a lot easier than human counters, like counting the number of people in the picture.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Neat.
We would have shown you that article, but New York Times didn't allow it.
Nope. TechCrunch has our next article, which is pretty cool. It says that image recognition in many apps and QR codes, how China uses its tech to sort its waste. And I read this and I was like, I kind of want this here.
Yeah, I wish we did more recycling programs here. I don't think they're as common in this area. What was the example we were talking about before we started?
Well, when I went to Canada, I was sort of confused by the recycling, like the way that the recycling was labeled, because it seems like there's like compostable and non-compostable. And so you could compost your food waste, and if you had a paper plate that you had cleaned thoroughly, it's like that would go in the one pile. But if your paper plate had food waste on it, that would go in the other pile, plate and all. I don't know. I didn't really understand. In America, we have glass recycling, certain types of plastic recycling, and paper recycling. So it's like, and then just regular trash. And compost is, if you want to compost, that's cool, but that's on you.
Yeah. That's actually very common in the tiny house movement. A lot of them compost.
So everybody has like a compost. It depends on what neighborhood you're in, but...
a compost heap.
Yeah.
That would... I don't know how common that is in other parts of the U.S., but I've seen that here.
In the UK, it's like, oh, my back garden has a terrible smell.
They probably don't have enough space. Well, I don't know. I guess you could. It would just smell bad. But if you keep it covered, it's not terrible. But anyway.
In China... It's with an app, and so it's like if you pick up dog poop with newspaper, is that still paper or is that organic waste? And it turns out that's organic waste. It's not paper anymore. I mean, there's paper there, but the paper will break down. So it's a different recycling thing once you've combined the products, and you don't want to, discombine. That's just
You know what? I don't. You mentioned newspaper. I use bags to pick up reuse, like plastic bags, and I was like, that seems extra wasteful because eventually the dog poop will go away. But, like, you're using plastic that will stay on the earth for thousands of years to pick it up, and it's like, is that...
Does wax paper break down? Because maybe little wax paper bags would be better, because you can still invert those.
I buy, they're supposed to be more eco-friendly, but whether that actually is true or not, I don't know. The bag's green. Supposed to break down a little quicker. Probably like, 1,000 years less over 5,000 years or something like.
You know what? AI might have done something useful for a change.
This is kind of neat. AI invents more effective flu vaccine in world first. Adelaide, blah, blah, blah. Researchers say.
So,
Wendell scrolled down.
I scrolled down a little bit, but we learned a new word.
We did. I immediately forgot it. I have to look at it again.
Adjuvant.
Adjuvant.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's the active ingredient.
Yeah, well, it's something that aids. I think the actual root means like to aid, but it aids your immuno
response.
Yes.
And so the AI was like, hey, based on the data you've given me, you should look at this compound, and the researchers did, and that worked. So this is starting a trial in the U.S. because flu season came early this year.
Somehow, even though it's like 100 gazillion degrees here.
Wow, that's just what they said in the article. I don't believe them.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who's had the flu yet.
What Sam's really doing is accelerating the flu season, so it's a constant dependence on
flu vaccines for people who do caregiving.
I'm only mostly kidding.
Do you do the flu vaccine?
I do.
I don't do a flu vaccine typically. I probably should because I work with kids periodically. Like I don't do it frequently. Like maybe like once or twice a month.
You're patient zero for the office.
No, I haven't been sick for a while. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, All right.
Oh, this one's neat. These gloves turn sign language into audible speech.
Look at they look kind of jank, like you would get electrocuted. But
they do.
It's probably okay.
It looks like no offense, Wendell, but like this looks like something you would design where it's like there's just wires and stuff sticking out of it, but it works perfectly.
I think it looks amazing. You totally won't get electrocuted from those 5 AAA batteries.
Scroll back up here. Look at the subtitle on this. We were both read this one.
72% of families don't sign with their deaf children.
That's sad.
If you have a deaf child, you should learn sign language. That's part of your responsibilities of being a parent.
I could see maybe if your child went deaf when they were older, maybe you could write to them or like text them. I don't know, but
that might be acceptable. But having
a child who was like deaf from birth,
yeah, that would be really off-putting.
Yeah, it's like you're signing with like your teacher. It's like a parent-teacher conference, and your mom's just on her phone, like
like let me type you a message.
Yeah. I don't know, but this actually makes it so it's audible, which is neat.
A lot of AI news this week, too. Artificial intelligence is being used to help identify bat species that are suspected for carrying the Nipah virus in Kerala. So
I should have looked up the Nipah virus. I've actually never heard of that.
Like you capture bats, and it's like, oh, this bat is infected. And then that's like a thing. Are you gonna look it up now?
Let's read about the Nipah virus, because I didn't get a chance to read about that. Usually if I find some little aside, I try to do that before, but...
Well, we need to close the loop here, where like once we get the algorithm down pat, that's when we deploy the drone army to actually take out and destroy the bats that are infected.
Transmitted through contaminated food or directly between people. In infected people, it causes a range of illnesses, to asymptomatic infection, to acute respiratory illness, and fatal encephalitis. That sounds...
pretty serious.
Which is probably why they're exterminating those bats.
Probably worthy of developing a drone that does all those things. So, did you know that plants are not conscious?
I did. I hope so, because I've been growing tomatoes and jalapenos all summer.
Apparently, a lot of people don't know that plants are not conscious. So, The Guardian has this story about a group of biologists trying to bury the idea that plants are conscious.
The editor who had to do the title for this was like, that's so clever. burying the idea.
It was like, bothered by claims that plants have brain-like command centers in their root tips that possess the equivalent of an animal nervous system. The critics counter there is no proof of sentient vegetation or structures within plants that would grant them what the neuroscientist has called the feeling of what happens.
How terrifying would that be if you were a vegetarian, like for ethical reasons? And then it was like, I can't eat plants either. What do you eat?
That's a problem.
You don't eat anything.
Eggs?
No, because I don't know. Well,
if the
vegans don't eat anything that's animal produced. Vegetarians just don't eat meat.
What about like free range chickens? Because we had chickens growing up, and they seemed perfectly happy. Like it was a quid pro quo. It's like, look, you've got a nice place to camp out and lots of food, and we take the eggs that are unfertilized, and like you're not forced to do anything. You can do whatever you want. If you want to leave, you could.
Just there's.
Oh.
Oh no! You hit the mic.
Oh, that's terrible.
We had chickens growing up as well, though their life was probably not quite as lovely as what yours was, because we lived in like downtown Tacoma.
I'm pretty sure that some of them did actually take off. Now, I'm not sure that their life outside the farm was any better, but, you know, we did occasionally eat them.
Ours, we didn't ever eat ours, though the neighborhood dogs got hold of them a couple times, which was traumatic for me as a 5-year-old, because my favorite one got mangled, and I saw it.
A little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are a little bit of a problem.
Air Force accidentally dropped 3 dummy bombs on Florida. They ask the public not to touch if you find them. And
I think we segued into the nonsense section.
So they show a picture of it, and I don't know how you could ever mistake it, like if you did find it. I mean, it looks like a bomb. But apparently this has happened before in Oklahoma in 2014.
Well, these are dummy bombs. And so they contain, quote-unquote, a small pyrotechnic charge, but no explosives.
Yeah, and like it's totally fine, but don't touch it if you see it. And please immediately alert us if you find it. But it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Next week's headline is going to be Florida man finds
bomb, yeah. Loads up on car in Disneyland.
Oh, no.
Or Disney World.
No, that's not good. A third CRISPR baby may have already been born in China.
So I didn't get to read all of this one. What was this baby's superpower? Oh, read full article.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, they gave us some more. For not much.
The Chinese scientist sprang a further surprise on the shocked gene editing experts. The second Chinese woman, he said, was pregnant with yet another CRISPR baby, and early pregnancy tests had confirmed it. So, yeah.
Months have passed.
Due to be born at any moment.
Normal birth.
Woo! That's just the genetic enhancements of CRISPR-5.
See, I'm waiting. We're turning into Gattaca. Every time we do a story about CRISPR, I have to mention the movie Gattaca.
It's going to be scary.
People who are born normally are going to be considered freaks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's basically where we're headed.
People like us with bad eyesight, they're not going to exist in the future.
No. Speaking of, this was nonsense. Ryan added this one, but it's like, is this really nonsense?
This was sad. I was like, why would you post this one?
What does this have to do with
Ryan's
technology?
not here this week, but...
In early morning roundups, Denver grabs geese in city parks to kill them and send meat to hungry families. They declined to clarify where the meat was going, but there are too many geese. And they describe a really horrific situation where like the banks of this lake are just covered in duck poop. And it's just a bad situation. And so
there's some lakes around here like that.
They're going to kill all the ducks, but they're going to turn it into food. So I guess, every dark cloud has a silver lining.
That's, geese are mean as hell too. But
geese, yeah, I guess.
Geese are real mean, but it is kind of sad.
Geese poop.
Do you think they'll remember this? Like, will they exact their revenge later?
No, I think that it's not even all the geese. It's just a small fraction of the geese, but they've been doing it every morning for a while, and there's still too many. There's
like a little baby goose in a nest somewhere, and he sees his mother get rounded up, and he vows revenge. I'd watch that movie. I'd watch that Disney film.
They've eaten everything. So New York Times has a cool article.
If we could read it. Scientists took an MRI scan of an atom.
Just a single atom. We've gotten to the point in MRI technology where we can image a single atom. And the images are pretty cool on the New York Times. Maybe it's worth subscribing. Maybe not. I don't know.
And that's it. To the next story.
Pretty much.
I saw this one and I knew Ryan added it. We're anti-influencer. Ice cream truck makes Instagram stars pay double.
So this is really amazing.
I love this.
If you tell the ice cream truck that you're an influencer, they charge you double.
Usually, you do that because you're trying to get something for free. This is how it should be. Like, I love this because as someone in the arts, people are always trying to get you to do stuff for free. Oh, but you get exposure. And, like, this is just poetic justice for all those moments.
There's so many people that have a huge following, and it's just absolutely, completely worthless. Because there's just no purchasing power. There's no community support. By the way, we love our fans. Thanks for supporting us on our store and on Patreon and on our forum. But we don't expect free ice cream. Yeah, no.
We pay for our own ice cream here at Level 1 Techs.
We really do. And it's thanks to patrons like you that we can afford to do that.
Also our day jobs, but...
Well, yeah. But, it's a lot of fun. This is...
I don't remember this. Oh, wait, I do know this one. Never mind. I can't see the headline because it's so far away. Schools are using aggression detecting mics that are set off by coughing, slamming locker doors to head off the next school shooting.
So imagine having a school monitored by microphones and bad software, where it's like a student coughing in a room is alerting somebody in a room
It's a
somewhere.
DEFCON 5 situation.
Yeah,
like
it's like, you need to get in there now. And it's like, oh, it's just students
school
coughing.
goes on lockdown because someone has a cold.
It's like, oh, somebody slammed their locker. Oh, that's bad. It's going to turn schools into a mausoleum where everything has to be like super quiet and everybody has to be like super hushed. That's probably going to not be good for the mental health of the children, I would guess.
Well, it's going to be distressing too, because like if you haven't witnessed a knife fight in the cafeteria, did you really go to school in Eastern Kentucky?
They punched each other out. I didn't know what was happening.
I saw a lot of fights in high school. That's probably like maybe a case for it, but I don't think that the technology's there yet.
Scientists are searching for a mirror universe. You could be sitting right in front of it. I don't think that's true.
This seems, there's some weird stuff in physics that I don't understand, but this seems kind of made up.
There was an experiment that they did where...
explain it for me.
There was an experiment that they did where they generated a certain amount of neutrinos, and that is basically universal. And then they did the experiment a different way and basically put the neutrinos in a jar, but there were less neutrinos than expected that actually made it to the jar. And the explanation that they came up with, which is more elegant from a mathematical standpoint, is basically that they went into a mirror dimension. If they weren't lost, they just went somewhere else, a parallel dimension. And so they're going to do another experiment to try to recreate the situation to determine if they can actually send those particles into a mirror dimension. Because neutrinos decay predictably, and they didn't see the decay rate that they expected in one scenario versus another, which doesn't make any sense. And the simplest way to explain it was that the neutrinos go to another dimension. Sometimes the simplest explanation is not the correct one, but we'll see.
It's hilarious that the simplest explanation is that there's a mirror dimension. Because for me, that sounds like the craziest explanation.
Japan. Japan has got...
this is a cute story.
Not a lot of unemployment. A lot of, if you want to have a job, move to Japan. So Uber is recruiting grannies as a result of that.
Uber recruits grannies as couriers to deliver ramen in Japan. This is so stinking cute. So apparently, I didn't learn this from the article. You can't do ride sharing. No. But Uber Eats is a thing there.
Yeah. So you can have people deliver food randomly, which I guess is a thing, which is fine.
That'd be like a cool job. It's if you're old and you're still able to get around,
a little old lady brings you stuff. I could get behind a little old lady bringing me southern, really well prepared southern food, various forms of pork and biscuits and gravy. And biscuits and gravy,
fried chicken,
various forms of pork. Oh yes,
macaroni and cheese,
the Southern style mac and cheese. Wow, it's all these products have pork products in them because the best mac and cheese has all of the pork parts that you have left over. Not really bacon, but
no, we didn't do that growing up.
Oh, it's really good. It's really good stuff. I could definitely. It's giant buttermilk biscuits.
Yeah. No, the biscuit and gravy, I could go. I mean, biscuit and gravy is not really that hard to make, but I'm so lazy.
People in the UK are really confused about what I'm talking about when I say
cookies and gravy.
Yeah, cookies and gravy. And the gravy, you guys don't even know what gravy is. Gravy is different than your gravy. You're thinking of gruel. I don't know. I feel very sad for people in London, the culinary thing. It's better now, but 50 years ago, it was pretty terrible from what I understand.
There's a lot of jokes about British food. I mean, fish and chips is fine. I haven't really tried enough British food. I know there's a lot of vinegar and pickled stuff, but...
It's bangers and mash. No. No. Actually, I think a lot of Middle Eastern food is popular in London, but they really need to get on the Tex-Mex and various forms of chicken and cheese. I bet we could open up a taco stand in London and make a mint.
So a lot of our British viewers have said that they don't have a lot of access to Mexican restaurants, and I'm that's really sad because in the U.S. they're everywhere and they're delicious.
You know what else is really sad? This is the end of this episode of the Level 1 News.
Dab on him. It was a bad dab.
Oh, okay. We'll see you next week. Be sure to check out our coverage, all the tech stuff that was on day one, because that was exciting. And thank you again to the folks that support us.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see
thank
you
you
next
all.
week.
Bye.